Hi, friends. Okay, so I forgot a few really important things that I wanted to talk about. I'm not surprised I forgot them. I knew I'd forget some points. There were three symptoms that I didn't really either talk about or address properly. The first is extreme fatigue. When I went to that first primary care appointment, she asked me if I had been experiencing fatigue. And I thought, aren't we tired? I'm a mom of four. Aren't we all a little sleepy? And it wasn't until my relapse that I really did experience true MS fatigue, where I couldn't get out of bed or stay out of bed. I'd get out of bed and have to go back to bed, and it just went on and on for days and days. Portia even came into my room one day and said, "Not again," because mommy had been in bed a lot, and that was really difficult. And it still happens to me. If I work too much, if I do too much, it just sort of hits me out of nowhere. And it's unfortunate, but it's just part of it. The other side is the cognitive, which I almost just lost my train of thought. So the cognitive side of it has been really hard for me. The past 3 years, I on several occasions said out loud to my husband, "I feel like I have ADD. Like, what is wrong with me? I can't focus. I can't finish a task. I'm disorganized. It's just so not me." And I always like to say I'm not claiming to know what it's like to have ADD. I'm not trying to downplay that diagnosis. It's just the words I used to describe how I was feeling. I just knew something, am I getting old? I'm tired. I can't stay organized. But all of these symptoms are very small until you kind of put them together like a puzzle. And the last one was urinary urgency, which is oh, that's not a fun thing to talk about, but 90% of the time with MS, the bladder is involved, and that can be on different levels. And for me, that was urgency. We would be out running errands, and I would ask the kids, "Does anyone have to go potty?" And not one of them would, but I always did. And so we always kind of joked about it like I was worse than a toddler. I always had to go. But turns out that is heavily associated with cervical lesions. So while it's maybe uncomfortable to talk about or funny, again, it's easy to ignore as a mom who's had 4 kids, had 4 C-sections. A lot of moms think that urgency just goes hand in hand with having children. And I also wanted to just address that or emphasize that no 2 cases of MS are going to look the same. I think when I came out with my diagnosis, one of the most common things I got was, "Oh, I know someone with MS and they're doing great." And I'm really happy for them. And I really hope that that stays true for me. But it might not be true for me. And whatever treatment they took might not work for me. You can have 2 patients' MRIs side by side. One is lit up like a Christmas tree, just so many lesions you can't even count. And the other just has 1 or 2 lesions, but it's the placement of the lesion and the size of the lesion that really affects ability. So the person, person A, you might think clinically is, not doing well ability-wise, maybe is using a cane or in a wheelchair. And then patient B, who just has 1 or 2 lesions, is maybe clinically doing well. They're walking, they're not having a lot of symptoms, when the reality is it could be vice versa. You really can't just assume off of 1 or 2 things how your disability or ability is going to be. It's very hard to predict. It's a very unpredictable disease. And then I had written a few little notes. Sorry, because I don't want to forget anything anymore. I just wanted to hit on where my baseline is now. I am out of my relapse, finally. My baseline is not where it used to be. I am numb and tingly every day. My new sort of area of numbness that I get is in the center of my back, which to me is a little alarming because that's kind of right around my spinal cord. If I do dishes for too long and I'm using my shoulders and my arms, the whole center of my back goes numb. Most of my baseline is affected by activity, which is related to the increase in body temperature, which has made working out really hard, which is sad because I I really like to work out more for my mental health and physical health. But just going to work, because it's an on your feet kind of job, can really wipe me out. It just really triggers a lot of neurological symptoms, as well as simple things like lugging stuff to the football field. It depends on if when I get there, if I can kind of rest, I'm usually okay. But if I'm engaging in an activity and I have to continue that activity and have to continue using my muscles and increasing my body temp, it can really sort of take me out for the day or just make me have a bad day. So that's kind of where I'm at. I am on a drug therapy, and I will talk about that in another video. I'm really hopeful that it will help prevent disease progression. That's the goal. The goal is to prevent relapses, which is preventing lesions. And if you prevent both those things, ideally you're preventing disability. But I think that's it for now. I really appreciate you watching. And any questions, I'll do my best to answer or look them up and answer or ask the right person to give you the right answer. I know there was a large chunk of you that were either concerned about yourselves or a loved one who was exhibiting some symptoms. And I hear you, I feel you. Don't freak yourself out if you have some similar symptoms as me, because there is an extensive process to go through to figure out if it is MS. There are many mimickers. It could be a myriad of things, so don't just assume, from watching this that you do or do not have MS. But at the same time, don't take it lightly. Like, it very well could be. So get yourselves in, talk to your doctors, be an advocate for yourself. I did not run into a lot of roadblocks. I have had a few actually share their story with me and talk about having difficulty getting sort of any help from the medical field for their symptoms. I had really good, maybe luck, or just good physicians who believed me. I had a totally clean medical history. I wasn't on any medications. A lot of times medications can cause these symptoms. I didn't have any sort of background of anything going on, so these symptoms were definitely something that needed to be attended to. It wasn't related to any sort of other diagnosis. Okay, I think that's it for now. Sorry to bore you if you're bored, and have a great afternoon.